guys, welcome back to The Bright Side. Macy here, the Bright Side Girl, and today we're going to be talking about my top 20 books of 2020. So I just want to preface this with these are not specifically new releases. I don't even think I have maybe one or two on the entire list. These are just my favorite books that I've read in the year of 2020. Part 1. So I'm going to split this up. The second video for this series will be up later today because I didn't time things quite well enough to get everything crammed in by the end of the new year. Today, we're going to be talking about the top 10 physical reads that I read for 2020. So, I had a very weird reading year, which I will talk about in my end of the year stats wrap up and all that stuff tomorrow, so stay tuned for that. With everything going on with 2020, physical reading especially was not a priority for me. I think on average I read 2 to 4 books a month, which is very unusual for me as far as the last 3 or 4 years go. Because of that, I didn't love a ton of the things that I was reading. I picked kind of weird things because I like to have a balance of talking about popular books and new releases, but also things that maybe you guys haven't heard of. And sometimes there's reasons we haven't heard of the books, so I read a lot of things that I didn't totally love. So while this is the top 10 of my physical reads, keep in mind I probably only read 30-40 physical books this year, so this isn't my top 10 overall. It's just the ones that I physically read versus audiobooks. So I'm a little bit more excited about the audiobooks overall, but I have quite a few gems in here as well. So I'm not going to go in any particular order, but I am going to try and pick the books that I like the least and do them first and then carry on, if that makes sense. So coming in at number 10 is Warcross by Marie Lu. I think I gave this one 4 stars overall. This one really surprised me. This is basically about a teenage hacker and video games and a bunch of really cool things like that. I read a ton of video game reads this year, which the video for that will be coming out next year sometime. This is one of the favorite ones that I read. It's about a girl that kind of hacks into a virtual reality system in the future. It's very futuristic. She's got rainbow hair. It was really great. It had a couple of great plot twists, which I wasn't expecting. I still need to read book 2, so I'm excited to do that in 2021. Coming in at number 9 is All the Stars and Teeth by Adeline Grace. My wonderful friend Brittany sent me this for my birthday. I will link her YouTube channel down below in the comments because she has one as well. She sent me this for my birthday and we buddy read it together. I really enjoyed this overall. It's about a princess on an island. There is a lot of magic and lore in here, a lot of good fantasy things. There's a mermaid involved. There's a lot of witches and dark magic, and it was really excellent. I'm very excited for the next book coming out fairly soon, which I'll hopefully be talking about in my new releases video, so stay tuned for that as well. Overall, I gave this one, again, 4 stars, very enjoyable, and it kept my attention, which was really great. Coming in at number 8 is Snow and Rose by Emily Winsfield Martin. This is a middle grade book that I've been wanting to read for a while. It's kind of a twist on the fairy tale of Snow White and Rose Red, 2 sisters that live in a magical woods, and their father disappears in the woods, and they're kind of trying to figure out what's happening to him, and there's just so much wonderful fairy tale goodness about this book, and it is absolutely stunning and has really beautiful in pages and illustrations and all of those things. It was really charming. I think I might have given this one 5 stars. If not, it was really close. Really enjoyed it. One of my new favorite middle grades for sure. Coming in at number 7 is Winterwood by Shea Earnshaw. I have the fancy Owl Crate edition of this, which have done me well this year. I got this one and one other Owl Crate edition just at a used bookstore because they were really inexpensive, and I was like, if I love them, I'll keep them, and if I don't like them, then I can sell them or trade them or whatever. And I wound up really enjoying this. I'm really surprised it's on this list, to be honest. So, because I didn't love Shea Earnshaw's first book, there was just something off about it, but I feel like this one kind of rounded things out. This is basically about a young girl with witchy powers that lives in the woods, and her whole family has lived there, and they kind of take care of the winter woods, and there's a boys camp across from her, and some mischief and things ensue when a boy goes missing, and she finds a boy's body in the woods, and he is alive, and there's just a bunch of mystery things in here. This one is a very good winter read, so if you're looking for something kind of wintry, it has a lot of wintry vibes in it, but it was also really good for Halloween time because it's got a lot of magic and darkness to it. It wrapped up really beautifully and I was really impressed, and I think I gave this one like 4.5 stars. Coming in at number 6 is A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas. So this is like the fancy edition that my friend Lindsay sent me when we did a trade. It is absolutely gorgeous and I couldn't find my other copy. So this, of course, is probably the most popular like new adult, young adult book on YouTube. I think I can say that with some confidence. And I super enjoyed it. I actually read this one twice this year. I read it and then I listened to it. It was not my like all-time favorite read, but I really enjoyed it. It's about, it's a very loose Beauty and the Beast retelling about our lead character, Feyre. She kills what she thinks is a wolf in the woods and he winds up being a fairy, and she kind of gets dragged into the Fae world. And a lot of things happen here. It's basically just like Fae fantasy romance. There's a lot of magic and a lot of really cool things that happen in here. I really enjoyed it even more upon rereading it, and I need to read the second one here soon. And at number 5, This Monstrous Thing by Mackenzie Lee. I've noticed that the Halloween reads always make it on this list, and I'm always surprised by it, but I love a good dark gothic read. So this is a Frankenstein retelling. I absolutely freaking love Frankenstein retellings. I wanted to do a video on it this year, but I didn't quite make it to that, so stay tuned for that next year. But this one has a steampunk vibe to it. It is so excellent. It's about Alistair, who is a shadow boy, which basically means him and his father work on clockwork people to fix their parts. So if they have like mechanical arms and legs, him and his father like illegally fix them because it's technically not, it's looked down upon, and I think it's illegal to be like part clockwork, which I thought was just so fascinating. And his brother has died and his true love has gone, and he's just having like a really hard time. He's keeping all these secrets and all these things are happening, and it's got that Frankenstein vibe in it. It was so excellent, a solid 5-star read for me, one of my all-time faves now. I just love a good Frankenstein book, and I loved all the clockwork steampunk vibes. I'll definitely be reading some more steampunk books come 2021. Coming in at number 4 is The Cold is in Her Bones by Petronelle van Arsdale. I didn't think that I was going to like this one as much as I did. It is a very loose Medusa retelling. It's kind of set more like on a farmland, old-fashioned like log cabin setting, kind of like Little House on the Prairie, but like dark and twisty. Basically, this whole town had something happen to them involving demons, and everyone kind of lives in fear, and they do all these rituals and they try to keep their daughters safe from demons and becoming demons. And our lead character is basically kind of isolated. Her best friend is her brother, and she has these like snakes for friends and all these kinds of things. And then a new girl comes into town and changes everything, and it is very dark, but so beautifully written. It was just so incredibly lovely. I think I read this one almost in a day. I loved it so much. One of my absolute faves from the whole year, including audiobooks. It was just very, very different and just so well written. It ended fantastically. The whole time I was reading it, I was just like, I don't know how I'm gonna feel. I don't know where this is going, and it was just wonderful and a solid 5-star. Another dark read that I loved, Odd and True by Kat Winters. This again has that gothic like Victorian vibe to it. We have our two sisters, Odd and True, and they had a very hard life growing up. True had a bad illness that like has crippled her leg, and so she's always in like a wheelchair or in a cane, and she went to go and live with her aunt, and meanwhile her sister has had like adventures and things on her own, and her sister comes back and tells her that they come from a family of monster hunters and tries to like drag her away from her aunt to like fulfill their destiny. And the entire time you're trying to figure out whether this is true or whether this is something that Odd has created in her brain, because you're bouncing back and forth between present time and then True and Odette's past and things that happened to them, and it was very, very dark and very intense. And so you don't really know if she's making this up as a way to cope or if it's actually magical, and there's like a magical element in here. So that mystery part is really great. It's very heartbreaking. There's definitely like somewhat of trigger warning topics in here, so I would look those up if you're concerned about that at all. But I felt like they were fairly mild, and it was really beautiful, and it was a solid 5-star. Coming in at number 2 is Mermaid Moon by Susan Kokol. I know this has kind of had slight mixed reviews lately, but I absolutely loved it. First of all, I ordered this book purely because it's beautiful, which I try not to do. I bought this at full price, which I almost never do. So beautiful all the way around, blue sprayed edges, rose under the cover. It's the most beautiful book that I own. Outside for sure, and inside I just loved it. This has a very heavy fairy tale setting. It is a young adult book, but I would almost consider it more new adult based on the topics. Our lead character is a mermaid, and she goes to shore to this island where her mom gave birth to her to see if she can go and find her mother, because her father was a mermaid and her mother was not, and her mother stayed on land. And she has magical powers, and then just a whole bunch of wonderful things happen. There is a witch in here. There is a hilarious prince with a hilarious sidekick. There is magical castles and priests and just lots of wonderful things. I just thought it was absolutely fantastic. I know some people didn't love it quite as much as I did. It has a very fairy tale heavy vibe about it, and the witch has some like crazy darker things that you're not expecting. I just thought overall it was just so enjoyable, and it's over 500 pages, and I read this really, really fast. So 5 stars for me. And lastly, the number one read, physical read for 2020 is The Jewel by Amy Ewing in this entire series. I'm putting this at number 1 because this series got me through March of 2020, and we all know that we desperately needed that. And so I just really appreciated that this book held my attention, and especially when I wasn't physically reading very well. I read this incredibly fast, the entire series. This is a dystopian trilogy. It's based on like girls being kept as surrogates and raised to be surrogates for the royal family, which I did not think I was going to like, but that was not the main plot of the book. So a lot of things happened in this series. I thought it was a very different dystopian trilogy than other ones. Of course, there's like that whole like government power, and like in this one it was a royalty thing more than a government. And the girls being like mistreated, and like boys being mistreated, and a bunch of different things like that. So a lot of things happening in here, but I thought it was so well done. I thought it was so interesting. The plot twists were great. There's just a lot of different plot twists in here. It was very fast paced without feeling rushed. I loved all 3 books. I think I gave them all 5 stars. I read this with my friend Claire. It was so fun. We couldn't wait to talk about it. So this was my number 1 read for 2020 physically. So those are all of the books that I physically read for 2020, or at least the top 10. Stay tuned for just a few hours. As soon as I can get it up, there will be a part 2 with the top 10 audiobooks, which I loved even a little bit more than some of these. I'm excited to talk about them with you. Let me know some of your top 10, top 20 books for 2020 down below in the comments, and I'll see you guys next time on the bright side. Bye!